guys, welcome to On My Shelf. Today I'm talking about a fascinating book that details the characteristics of all creative people. Because I'm a writer, I'm fascinated by anything that has to do with creativity. I'm always interested in learning about myself and others who are drawn to creating things. Wired to Create, Unraveling the Mysteries of the Creative Mind by Scott Barry Kaufman and Carolyn Gregor was an interesting look at all the characteristics that creative people possess. The authors examined characteristics like imaginative play, passion, daydreaming, solitude, intuition, openness to experience, mindfulness, sensitivity, turning adversity into advantage, and thinking differently. Within each of these chapters that explored those 10 characteristics, the authors included fascinating scientific research that showed both the brain science and all the psychology wrapped around each characteristic. It was a fantastic examination of what makes people creative and the different ways that creative minds work. While the authors examined in detail each of the characteristics of a creative mind, one thing I felt was missing from the book was how creative people could cultivate those characteristics. Sometimes, when we are introduced to the realities of life, some of these characteristics, like imaginative play, for example, tend to be hidden behind the responsibilities of life, especially when we're parents. We can certainly cultivate that imaginative play in practical ways, but the authors did not go into that. So I'm planning a book of my own, of course. The book was filled with scientific research, but it was not difficult to understand, which I appreciated. It was a very fast read, even with all the notes I took, which was about 5,000 words. What I liked most about Wired to Create was that it revealed so much about my own personality. I've apologized for a lot of the weird parts of my personality, when really it's just a hallmark of the creative mind. So much of the time I'll beat myself up about how it's so hard to stay present because my mind keeps wandering into daydreams. Now I know why. Daydreaming is important for the creative mind. We should allow ourselves to do it. I now know why, when I go through hard times or difficult situations, I immediately reach for my pen. I know why I prefer solitude, why I think differently than other people in my life, why I used to argue with my parents so much. Reading this book increased my self-awareness, and I think it's important for any creative person, and especially writers, to know themselves well. Also, I understand my kids a lot better too. I'll be sitting with this information for a while. I like looking at all the things I know and have learned and trying to spot connections and quantify it all, which is, of course, one of the characteristics of a creative mind. I hope you'll check out Wired to Create and continue learning all there is to learn about writing well and efficiently, cultivating creativity, and running a writing business. Be sure to visit racheltolson.com to see some of my best writer resource recommendations, and pick up some of my writer resources at thiswriterlife.com. If you have any resources that you have found valuable, leave them in the comments and I'll check them out. For more On My Shelf, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.